Today is Father's Day. It's the day we set aside to celebrate the men in our lives, as well we should. Unfortunately, in today's culture, we've almost totally lost the whole concept of manhood. So now, literally, men don't know how to be men. I'm sure you've heard somewhere along the line the term toxic masculinity. I'm assuming everybody's heard that. No? I will define toxic masculinity for you then. Actually, it's been out there for a while, but it came into use in the last couple of years, basically to demonize men. But the definition of toxic masculinity is the harmful effects of conformity to certain traditional masculine ideals. The problem with the definition is they don't define what traditional ideals are. And as a result, the term toxic masculinity is pretty much used as a billy club to beat up men. If you want to see where our culture's at, watch a commercial. How many commercials, if they show a dad at all, a man at all, he's either a dork. Y'all know what a dork is, right? Don't look at me like you're looking at a dork. I am not a dork. Or a villain. Where are the good guys? Where are the guys with the white hats? You don't see them. And they're sure not celebrated. I think part of it is there is not toxic masculinity, but some of those, and it says certain, traditional. Well, what are those certain? Dads are supposed to be part of the family, not just baby producers. There are some, I think, masculine myths, I don't want to say, that men have bought into, coming from our culture that we've bought into for several generations, myself included, as I look back on my life. And I think those have been detrimental to men, to women, and to our children, because we bought into these myths of masculinity. The first masculine myth is that masculinity is tied to a man's performance on the ball field. If you're not an athlete, you got picked on as a kid. If you were a runt like I was, you had a choice. Get picked on or fight back. I got so good at fighting back, I usually started. I know you're surprised by that. I'm not saying that that's the way I'm not. Believe me, I'm a great sports fan, as most of you know. But I was not a great athlete. That's just the fact of the matter. In fact, my daughter reminded me of that when she got a role, or first time she was on the starting five. She said, "Dad, I finally accomplished something you didn't." And she was on the National Honor Society at the same time. That is ever going to happen. But we make the mistake of tying our manhood to our performance on the ball field. Now, that's not it. There are great things we learn on the ball field, whether it's male or female. There is a place of sports. Sports is a great place where we can build character. My grandson, just last week, my grandson plays baseball, Wyatt. he's a pitcher, he's a utility guy. Because they had him catching. And them little kids can throw hard. Not accurate, but hard. And he broke his thumb catching for this other kid. Well, in that league, you can only throw 40 pitches a week. So they got several pitchers. And it was his turn. He broke his thumb on Tuesday. He pitched on Saturday with a cast on his head. I was a proud grandpa. Yeah. He's a man. No. He learned what it meant to overcome adversity. And I applaud his mother and father for letting me play her. Because he overcame adversity. There's something to that. That's a lesson you learn on the ball field. There's another lesson that's not very popular today, but still needs to be taught. There are winners and losers. And when you lose, I love my grandsons, but they weren't on a winning team this year. They weren't going to the playoffs. But they learned to go back out after every defeat and give it 100%. That is not being taught these days. And it's something every child, every human being needs to understand. You don't get to win. And I know, here I am talking about the cart right there, and you're thinking, yeah. But our performance on the ball field does not make us men. The second myth I think we've bought into is that our masculinity, our manhood, is tied to a man's billfold. The more money we make, the more of a man we are, right? Well, that tends to, when we buy into that myth, that makes us workaholics. I bought into that myth, and my family suffered for it. If you're at work, you're not at home. Guess where your kids need you to pour into them. And men, you pour into your children's life so much differently than women do. And you need it to pour into them. But you can't do that if you're always at work. If you want to win with the most toys. I have done many, many funerals. And I have yet to see a hearse pulling a U-Haul. You don't get to take the toys with you. And we've done many funeral dinners since we built this. And I have yet to hear people talk about, boy, he was such a great man because he left us all this wealth. Usually what's talked about is how whoever died poured into other people's lives. That's how you want to be remembered. Because believe me, the minute you can't work anymore, they already got your job already listed in the want ads or on the internet to replace you. The third myth that we've bought into is that masculinity is tied to a man's performance in a bedroom. Manhood is tied to how many women we can bed and how many kids we can produce. You've heard it. My baby's mama, my baby's daddy. I have a hard time describing my father and my grandfather in those terms. Why are we letting that be describing us now? Yes. I met a man in prison. Had an interesting nickname. His nickname was 7-Eleven. Interesting, right? I was intrigued, so I asked, why do they call you 7-Eleven? He had 11 children by 7 different women. He wasn't even 30 years old. And in his mind, he was very much a man. Think about it, 11 children growing up without their dad, not even knowing who he was. 70% of the men I worked with in Graham had no man in the home. The majority. And we wonder why our prisons keep getting refilled on a yearly basis. It's funny. Illinois Department of Corrections, a few years ago, I quit keeping up with the statistics, but they let out 300 more men than they had come into prison. Just 300. I think there's currently like 56,000 roughly Illinois men in prison. But IDOC let out 300 men more than actually got in. They called it a successful year. That's how we're measuring success these days. So the culture doesn't like those myths, and if you happen to buy into those myths and live your life by those myths, well, the culture calls you toxic. Who wants to be toxic? If you want to be toxic, raise your hand. Nobody wants to be toxic. So we don't want to be toxic, what are we to do? Well, the culture's confused us where, we are rejecting any masculine ideal without replacing them. We're going to reject those myths, but what are we replacing them with? Nothing. So therefore, we kind of figured it out ourselves. So some men act like women. Now, I'm not talking about men wearing a dress. I'm talking about that passive male who abdicates his God-given role as family leader. Trust me, men. Women want you to be a man. They don't want another woman. Other men act like animals. This leads to the hyper macho male who expects to be served and barks selfishly when he feels he is not a priority. Others yet don't grow up. Some men act like boys. Never growing up. You know the difference between a man and a boy? Children are selfish and self-centered. Men aren't. And that's what we've done to counter the toxic. It doesn't sound any better. Why don't we look at the Bible's view of manhood? 1 Corinthians, 16th chapter, 13th verse. This is from the New American Standard. Be on the alert. Stand firm in the faith. Act like men. Be strong. So to act like a man means we must be on alert. Be on alert means to watch. We are to be watchmen, men. God designed men to protect and provide for the family. Nehemiah 7:3, Nehemiah writes, I said to them, do not let the gates of Jerusalem be open until the sun is hot. Also, they are standing guard. Let them shut and bolt the doors. Also appoint guards for the inhabitants of Jerusalem, each at his post, and each in front of his own house. The highest priority after God is to be your family. The first priority after God is your wife and then your kids. That does not mean you treat your wife as your servant, nor do you live vicariously through your children. goes around. Drew, maybe come up here for a second. They do that with fear and trembling. Did you notice that? If you go to Genesis 2nd chapter, when God made Adam and Eve, stand back to back. He said woman was to be a helpmate. A helpmate is a military term. Try and step back up just a little bit. Now spit. No. Stay back to back and move at 360. That is the idea of the family, man and woman. See, you can't sneak up on them right now, can you? They're protecting the garden. They're protecting the family. That is the role of men and women. That is the biblical role of the family. Any questions? Thank you. You're to take on all comers who are a threat to the family, and believe me, we live in a time when there is nothing but threats to the family. And you can't do it on your own. The family takes two, male and female, doing their God-appointed roles. Act like a man means standing firm. It says stand firm in the faith. And this is more than just our personal faith. It's calling for men to stand for what has been revealed in the Bible. Jude 3 reads, Beloved, while I was making every effort to write to you about our common salvation, I felt it necessary to write to you appealing that you contend earnestly for the faith which was once for all handed down to the saints. Jude is using military language. The idea of standing firm is military language. You didn't know there's so much military language in the Bible, did you? In both the Old and New Testament. Boy, we don't sing Onward Christian Soldiers much anymore. Maybe we should. Because if there's ever a time in our cultures for Christian men to stand firm in the faith, today is that day. And standing firm is that hill that you are going to die on. It is the last stand. And I'm not talking about these secondary issues that the SBC loves to fight about at convention. I'm talking about just the gospel of Jesus Christ. Jesus saves, Jesus saves. How do you contend for your faith? See, what a man believes about God is the most important thing about him. And you look at the language that Jude used. Stand, keep, contend. All these are active verbs. Action words. I know what a verb is. Action words. Men love action, right? We love to do things. Well, we are to contend for the faith. How do we do that? Well, how about with the way we live and the way we talk? You want to take a stand for the faith, live like you got faith. Talk like you got faith. Not just in here, out there. Out there is where it counts. In your homes. To your kids and your grandkids. When men fail to stand for their faith, we do grievous harm to the next generation. You know, there's a reason why. We're really fortunate at Mount Pleasant. We have a lot of men in our midst. That was one thing 10 years ago when we moved into the parsonage. So many men volunteered to show up to unload that trailer. How many of you were there? Appreciate every one of you. Thank you. But you know what struck my dad? My dad says, do you realize you have more men unloading this trailer than we have in our entire church? In the majority of Southern Baptist churches, over 60% of the congregation is female. Where are the men? My wife, y'all like my wife, I know. She's made that perfectly clear. My wife is the way she is because her dad took her to church. Not her mom, her dad. Many Sundays her mom was so wore out from raising the kids that was her time of peace. So it was her dad who took her to church. It was her dad who guided her in the Bible. It was her dad that shared the salvation story with her and brought her to Christ. You want to impact your children, men? Bring them to church. When we stand for our faith, we don't know what it means to that next generation. I've made no bones about I was not a great dad. In fact, I'd say I was a bad dad. Because I didn't have faith, but my dad did. My daughter, when she was in college, flunked out of college, ran away, and there were months we didn't know where she was at. Till we got that midnight call. Daddy, I'm in trouble. Can I come home? My daughter very easily could have gotten an abortion. And I had that conversation with her. Why didn't you? Number one reason. Because of the faith of my parents. And Madonna. And then me. Grandparents, you do not realize the influence you have with your grandchildren. Not so much what you say, but the way you live. They are watching you. Be worthy of watching. My son and I, just this past month or so, I guess it was in May, we spent more time together than we have in years. We drove a truck from Ohio to Florida. It was great. It was a great time. I had this conversation with my son. And the one thing that's struck, he cannot get over. And in fact, because my son, but we had a long conversation of why I'm going back to London with a team to do VBS for Muslim kids. Because my son is well aware the Muslims are not my people group. So why? Why, Dad, why? All I can say is because God said so. I'm just trying to be obedient, son. And this next generation needs men who are obedient to what God tells them to do. Even when they don't want to do it. Even when it's hard. That's when it counts the most, isn't it? And lastly, acting like a man means being strong. I wish Tom was here. He'd be so proud of me. The word be strong is perfect passive tense. Take note. Perfect passive tense. Perfect form of a word means strength is a continuous action. Now, passive voice means God provides that strength. Catch it. We're not talking about physical Samson strength. We're talking about strength in the Lord. You know how you get strength in the Lord? By being submissive to the Lord. Oh, men hate that, don't we? That the Bible says See, I don't mind being submissive to a God who had nails driven into his hand. Who, as they were killing him, said, Father, forgive them. That ain't me. I hold grudges. And we got to get rid of this idea that Jesus was some limp-wrist wimp. Jesus was a man's man. He had calluses in those hands that were nailed to the cross. He didn't say, peace be still, to the storm. He said, peace, be still. Command voice. Drill instructor voice. Unapologetic. Our strength comes from God. We need men whose strength comes from God. Character. And a strong character means you're authentic. Wow. Bible tells us a double-minded man is unstable in all ways. Boy, do we live in a double-minded time. We need authentic Christian men. That's the answer to the culture. And to be authentic means you got to be willing to be vulnerable. To many Christians and pastors in particular, we have a hard time being authentic. We have taken 1 Corinthians 9:22 where it says, I have become all things to all men that I by all means save some. And we twisted it, I think, into something that Paul didn't mean. Paul's not telling us to give up our authenticity. I heard a pastor at the convention. I was eavesdropping, to be honest. He was talking to a young man, I'm assuming not long out of seminary. But he was taking a church in Wyoming. He said, I'm going to do a cowboy church in Wyoming. Guess I better buy a hat. I thought, young man, I can say that now that I'm an old man. Young man, it takes a whole lot more than a hat to make you a cowboy. They're going to eat you up. I think that's why so many of our churches are in the shape they're in. They don't have authentic pastors. They have fearful pastors. I thank God that you have allowed me to be me. Truth of the matter is, I don't know how to be anybody else. I know I'm an acquired taste. But it matters, men. Be authentic. Be authentic in your homes. Be authentic in your jobs. And really what the verse is saying is, the Lord doesn't give us strength. I'm sure we all have prayed, God, give me strength. That's not what it's saying. It's saying God is our strength. God is our strength. Because we cannot do this on our own strength. It can only come from God. And the idea is God's strength is pouring through you. You know how you get God's strength pouring through you? You walk close to God. It's like an electrical charge. I found out about electricity because when I was a kid, we had a lot of electric fence. That's why I'm not an electrician today. But you know, there was a time my brother got a whole electric fence and it wasn't unplugged. And I do what brothers do. I went to his rescue. And when I grabbed hold of him, guess what happened? The electricity started pouring through me too. Can you relate? We both wet our pants up today. But that's the idea. You got God's strength. You're clear close to God. like an electricity will. But you got to stay close to the cross. Too many of us are over here. Give me strength, God. God say, come over here, let me touch you. Open your Bible. You'll have an impact on your family. Lead a family devotion. Never forget when I first got saved. Got the kids up. We're doing devotional before church. Eat your oatmeal. We're doing it. My son, never forget, looks at me. You're taking this church stuff pretty serious, aren't you, Pop? Yeah. It's made me a new creation. I want you to be a new creation too. Because the old creation ain't so hot. And you only get that kind of power from the cross. See, I don't know where you are in your walk. Male, put your hands on him. We're going to pray over the men in our congregation.
Father, I just thank you for this time that we've had to be in your house, Lord. I just thank you for each and every man that is represented here, Lord. I just pray that you will just bless them, and Lord, I just pray that you will give them strength and that they will want to have a closer walk with you, Lord, and to be able to lead their families towards you, Lord. And I just thank you for each and every man here that has been an example to us, Lord, and has just been active in this church. And I just pray that, Lord, we will continue to see men rise up and be good Christian men. Lord, I just thank you for Father's Day, and I thank you for those fathers that are no longer with us, Lord, that have just led us to you. And I think of my own father, Lord, that he was such an influence on me and did bring me to church, Lord, and I just thank you for that. And I know there's many others that have had such an influence in our life. Lord, I just ask you to be with them the rest of the day, to lead and guide us in Jesus' name.